When people talk about, well, if I get kicked off of Facebook, that's an attack on my free speech or on my First Amendment right, that's just not true. Social media platforms are not the public sphere.
I'll just cut to the chase. Big tech's out to get conservatives.
This climate on social media has become an oppression Olympics. No, I'm the most oppressed. I'm the most censored.
I do not have access to my main Facebook account.
I wasn't given an explanation as to what had happened. I was just like, what did I do? I don't believe my white friends experienced the censorship as much.
The rules about which content is allowed online are made exclusively by people at the companies. How those rules are enforced is something that the rest of us know very, very little about.
The question of who should regulate speech online is a challenging one, right? The answer is not the government. It does have to be the platforms. It's just that very few people like the idea of massive private companies regulating speech either.
I came to be passionate about free speech and against censorship because as an artist, as an independent artist, I make my living off being able to use my voice to speak to others, whether it's in song or written form. And as an out conservative, it's even more important because certain people may not like my political beliefs. And that's okay to disagree, but it's not okay to shut down my voice simply because it's not the same as yours. Back in 2017, around July or August, I had released my Make America Great Again music video on YouTube, and within a few hours, it got taken down by YouTube. And when I wrote them, because I said, what's the reason? Why is it inappropriate? Is it because I'm political in it? After about 24 hours, they said, you have somebody's face in there that does not want to be seen. This person had given me direct permission, which I told YouTube. I went back and forth. I stayed up all night. I took it to the rest of my social media. I told my fans, my Joy Tribe, hey, listen, YouTube is censoring me. This is unfair censorship. And I blasted it.
So we're going to talk about how we got censored.
Yeah, we did.
Local, conservative, independent press started picking it up. The story started trending.
They love what we're saying. They said they are straight up discriminating against Trump supporters.
Finally, they said you can blur it out. Here's the blur tool. That blur tool wasn't available to me until I wrote them 6 or 7 times and took to social media. I blurred the face and I fought YouTube and I won.
Well, President Trump is hosting a social media summit at the White House today.
I got an invite by the President of the United States as one of about 200 special people who were picked, who are influencers in social media, to come and attend the social media summit.
It's a collusion between the Democrats and the media and social media.
Do you think big tech censors conservative voices?
Oh, absolutely. There have been thousands upon thousands of accounts that have been shut down like that for no reason, simply because they're conservative.
Some Republicans are now accusing companies like Twitter and Facebook of targeting conservatives.
I am being discriminated against by social media networks who are censoring my conservative columns.
I'll just cut to the chase. Big tech's out to get conservatives.
We hear that there is an anti-conservative bias on the part of Facebook or other platforms because conservatives keep saying that. I would be very surprised if that were the case, in part because on most days, the most popular, most visited groups on Facebook and pages on Facebook are very conservative ones. I also find it interesting that many conservatives complain that the platforms have a bias against them at the same time as Black Lives Matter activists feel that the platforms are disproportionately taking down their content.
Does content come down? Yes, absolutely. Should some content that comes down not have come down? Yes, absolutely. Does that mean that there is a vast conspiracy to censor certain points of view? No, I don't believe that that's actually happening. The question of who should regulate speech online is a challenging one, right? Within the United States, the answer is not the government. It does have to be the platforms. It's just that very few people like the idea of, massive private companies regulating speech either.
Okay, Facebook, how many more times are we going to have to play this game? I usually communicate on Facebook, which up until a week ago, I had access to, but for some reason, I do not have access to my main Facebook account.
I was in the living room. I was either playing a game or watching something on YouTube, and I got a text from my friend, and he's just like, did you disable the Facebook account or something? Are you upset? And I'm just like, no, what's going on? And he's just like, I don't see you. I can't message you or anything. So I'm like, that's weird. On March 18th, 2019, I received the only correspondence from Facebook. Pretty much said, hi Jessica, thanks for getting in touch with us. We can't help with these kind of issues from here, but if you try logging onto your disabled Facebook account, you should get more information about why your account is disabled and if there's anything you can do about it. Thanks, Effie. I contacted them several times and nothing was resolved. I was even trying to think of things like I've been on Facebook all those years. I post a lot. I've, been in arguments, whatever.
What kind of arguments?
Just political arguments and debates. I've had debates with admitted white supremacists before. And back in the day, I would let people, even though I didn't agree with them politically, I'd still let them, be part of the conversation and share their thoughts. And there would be a lot of debates because of that. And when you get into those groups and no one really knows each other and people are just kind of jerks to each other, sometimes they will just, one of their tactics is to shut you up, is to report your account and I guess try to get you silenced. I wasn't given an explanation as to what had happened. And I was just like, what did I do? I'm still trying to figure out, I didn't do anything. I don't know what I did. One time I did this little experiment where this guy was kind of being just a racist jerk. And I flagged one of his things just to see if he would get in trouble for one of the things he said that was just really messed up. And nothing came of it. I do think there is a bias with the way Facebook moderates content. I don't believe my white friends really experience the censorship as much.
I started noticing that this was happening to other people as well. People who have been on the site for over a decade suddenly have no access to their account and no explanation and no acknowledgement. So yeah, do you give a shit? Will you give a shit when it happens to you? Because I'm seeing it happen to many people who are just as confused as I am.
We see this all the time where companies are looking to remove hateful content. And when they go to remove that hateful content, they're actually removing the people who are complaining about the hateful content. It's really important for the internet companies to tell you up front what the rules are, right? That they make it clear that if you engage in hateful activities and they define for you what those hateful activities are. The problem really arises when those terms of service, what they're generally referred to as, are too loose or they're not specific enough.
Content moderation means deciding which posts, which images to take down off a platform and which to leave up. Most people don't know that those detailed rules that instruct the moderators what to leave up and what to take down are secret. Facebook and other platforms now publish rules. How those rules are enforced is something that the rest of us know very, very little about. It's like a black box.
I worked at 3 different tech companies. I worked at Twitter, Reddit, and Facebook. There is no one mandate at tech companies about what kind of speech is accepted. It's actually a ever-evolving, snowballing in some cases, set of rules. Yes, they have their terms of service, but they are regulated haphazardly. People are saying, okay, this is free speech, but this is not. Companies have varied rules. The same rules on Facebook don't apply on Twitter. Unfortunately, tech is made up of a homogenous group, mostly white and Asian males. And so what happens is the experiences that go into this decision making are reflective of a majority group. And so people from different backgrounds, Black, Latino, different religions, conservative, liberal, don't have the accurate representation that they would if these companies were more diverse. When I left Facebook in late 2018, I published an internal memo that outlined the company's problems with both Black users and Black employees. For me, I had to think about the Black community that I come from, who was being marginalized not only inside the company, but on the platform. Diversity and those conversations were not a priority for Facebook. As a person, I had to say, I can't keep fighting the company that's fighting me, so I need to walk away.
I used to work in corporate America and we had a rule, CYA, cover your own ass. That's kind of how Facebook approaches content moderation. My friends always email me, I can't believe that I got banned because XYZ happened. And I will tell them the community standards are working exactly the way that they are set up to work. Because in the community standards, white men are a protected class, the same as a Black trans woman is. The community standards does not take into account the homophobia and the violence and how all those things intersect. It takes all of them as individual things that need to be protected. The original problem with Facebook is that they were relying solely on AI and bots to the content moderation. So that means you're putting these community standards in place and you have these bots who are just looking for certain specific things, and it's automated. It doesn't have the ability for nuanced decision making in regards to this. So say for instance, I have been banned at least once for using the word dyke. I have been flagged for using imagery of lynching. I've been flagged for illicit content with pictures of lesbians. I have been flagged for violent content when actually showing images about racism or about transphobia. They attempted to fix it by hiring more humans, but then they weren't addressing things like implicit bias, things like intersectional voices or identities. So that results in a whole different form of bias, which was still not effective and enough.
You say that you have 15 to 20,000 people working on security and content review. Do you know the political orientation of those 15 to 20,000 people engaged in content review?
No, Senator, we do not generally ask people about their political orientation when they're joining the company.
The president's focus has been on punishing Twitter and other tech giants after 2 of his tweets attacking mail-in ballots were flagged for making false claims.
So there is this problem in the United States that when we talk about free speech, we often misunderstand it. The public and all of us often talk about it in the context of the First Amendment. And the First Amendment is very specific. It protects all of us as Americans from the government limiting our speech. And so when people talk about, well, if I get kicked off of Facebook, that's an attack on my free speech or on my First Amendment right, that's just not true, right? That the companies have the ability to decide what speech they will allow. They're not the government.
Therefore, today I'm signing an executive order to protect and uphold the free speech and rights of the American people. Currently, social media giants like Twitter receive an unprecedented liability shield based on the theory that they're a neutral platform, which they are not an editor with a view.
Donald Trump said through the executive order that he wanted to examine getting rid of something called Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996. And what Section 230 says is that internet companies are not responsible for what others publish on their websites. It's actually Section 230 which allows for a lot of the content that Trump has put out there to continue to stay up. Because internet companies don't have to worry that they're going to be held legally liable for dangerous speech that he puts up. The more important or influential the person is, the more likely their dangerous speech is going to be acted upon by others.
Well, a new bombshell investigation exposes Facebook's growing struggle to tackle hate speech in Myanmar. The social media site has been used to incite violence against Rohingya refugees living in the country's Rakhine state. Reuters found more than 1,000 recent examples of posts, comments, and images on Facebook attacking Rohingya people.
We see Facebook's tools being used by people who engaged in ethnic cleansing in Myanmar. Major white nationalists like Richard Spencer do not have a presence on Facebook or YouTube, but they have a presence now and have for a long time on Twitter. These individuals helped organize the neo-Nazi march, which turned deadly in Charlottesville. It's seldom the case that the companies really learn they have a problem only when the mass killings happen. It's that they've chosen not to listen to those voices earlier when they could have taken actions and fixed their applications prior to that time.
Commitment to free speech means that the platforms are very reluctant to take anything down. What that means, though, is that people who realize that they could run botnets or run massive quantities of accounts all at once could have more than one voice. So if you think about democratic conversation as one person, one voice participating in a public debate around ideas, that's not what you have in a system where mass quantities of automation mimicking the voices of real people when in fact they're actually just fake automatons. That's not a healthy democratic debate either. The platforms have grown as large and unwieldy in some ways as they are because it enables the platforms to make more money. The kind of operating principle guiding a lot of the decisions made around everything from moderation to what kind of content was surfaced, it wasn't to facilitate public debate and give everyone a voice. It was really very much about, we have users on site, we keep them engaged to a particular, to an extent, and we target them with ads.
Well, I think what's important to recognize here is that Facebook moderate content all the time. They'll moderate it using algorithms to make it as profitable as possible. What we know is that their algorithms at Facebook lift up and elevate and make sure that more people see content that is more dangerous. So Donald Trump's content, for instance, isn't just popular on Facebook because Donald Trump has a lot of followers, but it's also popular because it's elevated by Facebook's algorithms to make sure more eyes see it. Your ability to purchase things is what Facebook exists for. It's not a public commons, it's a marketing tool to deliver advertising to you. You're not the customer, you're the product.
He just wants to embarrass me. Stop it. I don't use Facebook quite the same way as I used to. On my old account, I would engage more strangers and just acquaintances and allow them into my conversations. These days, I tend to just stick around my friend group, and I just don't reach out to other people to engage these conversations as much.
You know, as a person who's felt very misunderstood for a significant majority of her life, I found a voice, and other people found a voice within this platform. We were able to converge and make our own communities. Like before, I kind of understand certain things that may have offended people, but giving people no reason, it's just cruel and unusual. Cruel and unusual.
I had a lot of memories on that page, friendships, associations I haven't even been able to reconnect with at this point, people that I will never be able to speak to again, who are dead now. Like, they were my friends on Facebook, and I can't like view their pictures the same way, or I can't look at old conversations that we had. I mean, I know it's not like the craziest thing in the world. It's not the most important thing in the world, but I just think since Facebook has like worked so hard to like encompass everything in people's lives as much as it can, it was easy to kind of, depend on them for certain things, just like keeping in touch with people. So it was kind of an emotional thing, and it's just like something I've had for so long. It was just really upsetting.
Whether we like it or not, we are all on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter all day long. And when they take us off the ban list, I don't know anybody who does not post a status on Facebook right after the ban is lifted. I'm back, y'all. You can't even stay away. You can't even leave this abusive, it's like an abusive relationship. You can't even leave the abusive relationship because you become so used to and dependent on it.
Social media platforms are unfortunately a reflection of the real world. There are violent people out there, there are racist people out there, there are people who are misogynistic, and all of that is shown on the platform over and over again. The difference is people have a bigger platform on which to spread it. If this is posted online, all of a sudden you could reach hundreds, thousands, millions of people. And so that's where social media has a responsibility to alter the way this sort of information is spread.
Big tech is a problem. These companies don't care, and they need to be held responsible. They need to be held accountable for what they're doing. They need to be transparent in how they handle what is okay and not okay.
We have absolutely no data on platforms' enforcement of their own rules at scale. And therefore, we cannot get answers to vital questions like, is the platform taking down content posted by, for example, African Americans at the same rate as it is taking down content posted by whites?
The primary threat on the internet to freedom of speech in the United States over the last decade has not been that the government was going to step in and take away your speech if you were saying something racist. And it was not that the internet companies necessarily would even do that. It was that there would be so much, such a high volume of dangerous speech. If you allow this hateful content to go on, it has multiple repercussions. It has the repercussion that other people's speech will not be heard because they'll leave the platform. It has the repercussion in the real world of people being killed, which is the ultimate denial of freedom of speech.
Hey, thanks for checking out CBSN Originals on YouTube. If you want to watch more documentaries, download the free CBS News app on your phone, tablet, smart TV, or any streaming device. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking down here. Thanks for watching.